Okay, 8 hours later, after the bus journey from Prague to Krakow, we were shattered. You don't sleep on a bus, but that was the cheapest, most efficient way for us not to waste time. So we arrived this morning to Krakow. We headed straight, unfortunately, because we booked it into an Airbnb. We weren't able to go and crash out for a couple of hours at the Airbnb apartment. So instead, we headed straight to the main market square, which is called the Rynek Glowny of Krakow, and it's a beautiful square. It's one of those old traditional medieval squares that you find in a lot of the European, especially Eastern European countries, where there's cafes everywhere now. There's entertainment throughout the day. Full of energy, even when we landed there at 9 a.m. in the morning. And we thought, let's go there, have some coffee, perk ourselves up, and start our day until we can go to the Airbnb. So the square itself has a beautiful old medieval cloth hall, which used to trade textiles in the medieval days, but is now basically a center. It's still a very beautiful center, but a center which sells a lot of tourist souvenirs. And amber, a lot of amber necklaces are being sold here. Beautiful, beautiful amber necklaces. I love amber. Didn't get to buy one this time, but that's because last time actually I went to Prague in the early 2000s. I bought a couple of amber necklaces. Didn't need any more at this point. So it's full of these souvenirs, but along with that, there's also this very beautiful St. Mary's Basilica, as it's called. So interestingly enough, because since I've been going across Europe, I've noticed some churches are called basilicas, some churches are called cathedrals, and I thought to myself, maybe they're the same thing, but actually they're not. Cathedrals tends to be so all churches have a religious area that's defined. So it's like a district, for example, in administration terms. So churches will have their own little districts. A cathedral is a district which is a larger district, usually headed by a bishop. So it's actually considered much more important. A basilica is something that has been given the importance of being a church by the Pope, but it's usually decided on the basis of maybe its artistical or architectural beauty, or maybe some historical importance, and that's why it's defined to be a basilica. And cathedrals can be basilicas. For example, St. Peter's Basilica is a cathedral, and obviously a hugely important part of important church for the Christian faith. The beautiful Wawel Church, which is described to be an architectural marvel, it has Renaissance architecture, it has Gothic and Baroque architecture. It has been the site of the Polish monarchy for centuries, is only 10-15 minutes away from the main market square as well. So we visited that as well. We visited that as well. So we started this trip in Krakow by visiting the famous Jewish district called Kazimierz. In the city. It used to play a very important role. It's very full of narrow alleys. There's a Jewish museum there. There's Jewish cemeteries still there. We saw a old, very rundown house of a Jewish family called the Roscoes, which had actually lived in that house between 1633 till 1941, where obviously they ran away or they were taken by the Nazis. But it was a lovely visit to that particular area, which gave you really a feeling of the history and the importance that Jews had in Krakow, and they used to be very important and influential. Currently, numbers vary, but between 8,000 to 20,000 Jews still live in Poland, but Krakow only has 200 to 300. So it was the invasion of Poland in September 1939 by Germany, which basically heralded the beginning of World War II. The Polish suffered immensely. There were extermination camps in which not only Jews but also Polish intellectuals and dissidents were sent to, killed. In fact, that is how these extermination camps started. And Poland remained under German control until the end of the Second World War in 1945. So the real highlight of our trip was our day trip to Auschwitz, which is around a 1-hour train ride away from Krakow. It left us very sad and depressed, and obviously very thoughtful about the things that man is capable of doing in his dark days when he desires to do so, when he or she desires to do so. We got to see Auschwitz I, which is the main camp, as well as Auschwitz II, which is the extermination camp where you find the gas chambers and the crematory of where people were burnt. There was a lot of security to go into the camp. We had to take our backpacks off. They put them through security cameras. So it was interesting to see that they required that much, because we haven't seen that anywhere else along our trip, in any museum or any other place. But here, this is what they required us to do. So when you walk into the camp, you still see the original brick and wooden barracks kept, in which blocks have been created. In the main camp, there are around 28 blocks in total. Women are kept separately. Women prisoners were kept separately from the men prisoners. The blocks contained areas of administrative offices where the SSS officers themselves would have lived and done their business as usual activities. The gas chambers are found in the Birkenau extermination camp, which is right next to each other. We couldn't take pictures and videos in many parts of the camp. They didn't allow us to do that because of respect for those who had died. But we could see masses and thousands of personal belongings, shoes, combs, a sickening area where they had women's hair. Women were shaved so that the hair could be used to make textiles out of it. So we could see that there were pictures of prisoners who were there. The camp originally was actually set up for Polish prisoners, and the original 708 or 700 and something plus prisoners, pictures are there as you enter the camp itself. Later it got expanded as the brainwave came that let's put Jewish people in here as well and start the extermination process. But it was a very, very sad day. We felt, we couldn't believe that, human beings could be capable of doing something like that. There was a very beautiful, evocative statement that was put on the entry of one of the blocks, which I don't have it right now in front of me, which basically, and I'll put a clip of it, I did take a picture, which basically says that those that feel who forget history are apt to do it again. So to repeat the same mistakes again. And the only thing that came to my mind is what is happening right now in Israel, what is happening with the Palestinian people, these Jewish people who suffer tremendously by the Germans, by the Europeans for centuries. But the high point, obviously, of their sacrifice and their despair was Auschwitz, where millions were killed. I think almost 2 million people were killed. So if 2 million people were killed here, how could they do what they are now doing to the Palestinians? Killing them the way they arbitrarily killing them in the name of their own security and safety on a land that was given to them by the British arbitrarily, even if they do say there is a history going back. But on the basis of history, many of us can claim many lands. But no doubt, of course, I can understand that they would want this security. But that was the thought that came to my mind when I went through this. I mean, of course, the sufferings were all there, but also the suffering today that we see of the Palestinians was very much foremost in my mind.
So we nearly reached Krakow bus station, which is where we're supposed to reach. It's an 8-hour journey here, and we're nearly there at 8 in the morning.
I'm standing in front of the oldest synagogue in Poland. This particular synagogue was created after the 12th century. Jews moved to Poland in the 12th century, running away from other areas because at that time it was considered to be a safe haven. This area of Krakow now is called the Jewish Quarter, as the Kazimierz area. I'm probably not pronouncing it correctly, but I'll write the spelling for you. But this particular area at that time started in the 14th century as an independent city, and over time it became part of Krakow itself. Krakow had around 64,000 Jewish people at the time of World War II. Poland overall had around 3.7 million Jews, and 90% of these Jews were killed during World War II. Auschwitz is actually very close to Krakow. It's around 1.5 to 2 hours away from the city. So it it is within reach, and that is the reason why so many Jews were taken there and killed during that period there. They were rounded up all over Europe and sent to Auschwitz. Schindler's List in 1993, Steven Spielberg best-selling movie, was actually filmed in this particular district. I'm going to show you some clips of the district as well. It's a beautiful old part of town. Not many Jews now live in Krakow, less than 10 to 20,000 it's estimated. Most of them immigrated after World War II to Israel at the time. So we've arrived after 1.5 hour bus ride to Auschwitz, which is, as you all know, the place where the largest mass murder of Jews happened in one go. Germany initiated World War II by invading Poland, and these were previously Auschwitz was army barracks, and initially they sent in the Polish intelligentsia and the intellectuals who were against the Germans here to these camps. Later Jews were also sent here, brought in. There are tracks that come directly into the camp. The camps were initially looked after by German criminals that were brought over from Germany, and they were the ones who started introducing sadistic and beat up prisoners, did sadistic things on these prisoners as a way of torturing them just to get fun out of it. Later that became a whole policy, and we know that this became what became Hitler's final solution to the Jewish question. Coming into the main square, where the town hall is in the middle. That's the town hall. On both sides of the town hall are the square. This is St. Mary's Cathedral. So all the shops have amber everywhere. Every single shop has amber, which is one of the biggest. We're in what used to be the cloth market. So cloth would come from different parts of the world, silk trade would come here. Now it's basically a local tourist souvenir shop where basically a lot of amber is sold. Polish toys made from wood centuries ago. Now this dragon, I haven't figured out why, but the dragon is the symbol of Krakow. And then we have amber again. Amber is everywhere. Amber across as well. I'm here at the Wawel Castle, which is at the top of Wawel Hill. Wawel Hill is to Poland what Acropolis is to ancient Athens. So it's a significant hill in the history of Poland, both historically and culturally. The first king who established the state of Poland established it at the top of this hill in around 960 in the year 960 AD. The castle itself later became bigger by the 14th century in a more Renaissance Italian style, which was very fashionable at that time, and did host kings for many centuries. Krakow was an important center historically as well. For a very short period of time, Krakow was the capital of Poland as well for around 40-50 years. This whole site has been declared, along with the historic center of Krakow, as a UNESCO heritage site by 1978. There's a very interesting legend actually which is based here. Krakow has this dragon that you see throughout the center of Krakow. You see it sold in all the tourist shops and you wonder what it's all about. But apparently this hill was kept by a dragon living at the bottom of the hill. He terrorized the people who lived in the region around, and all the knights would come. They'd try and kill him. This was part of their bravery effort, but none of them succeeded. Many of them died until a shoemaker came along, and he came up with this ingenious idea of filling a sheep with sulfur and feeding it to the dragon. And when the dragon ate it, he was burning with fire, and there's signs of burning fire dragon everywhere. And he went to the local river, the Vistula River at the time, and he drank lots and lots of water, and then he finally died, apparently, from over drinking water. This is one of Wawel Castle's 2 artillery towers, which basically held all the artillery, firearms, and the guards would sleep here, except in peacetime when it acted as a prison for people of high standing. So nobility would stay here, and it was actually considered somewhat of an honor to be kept in this particular tower. So the Wawel Cathedral is actually based inside the palace complex itself, and it's not unusual that you see this kind of thing happening. One of the major reasons is because the majority of the kings who started in the medieval era all held the belief of the divine right of kings to rule, which is that the god had given them that divine right to be the king. So they would always keep religion very close to them inside the palace, so that people understood that the religion bestowed a divine right for them to be a hereditary king. So this particular cathedral was started to be built around the 1000 year, and of course has been an accumulation of buildings over time. It is a place where the kings would all get crowned, and where funerals took place as well. So here we're inside the castle. We're in a courtyard. Okay, we're going down to the Dragon's Den. It's obviously a very nicely lit Dragon's Den. Okay, all the way. So we're inside the Dragon's Den. No wonder there is a whole rumor, legend made about the Dragon's Den. Okay guys, we're coming up to conquer the dragon. We're going to decide if we are a cobbler or are we a knight. More steps as we go into the Dragon's Den. Actually, this is 12 million years old. Limestone, I think. And we come out to the fiery dragon. So we managed to make it to the Dragon's Den, which is where the imaginary dragon lived. I'm going to show you clips, and you can truly believe why that legend was actually created. With faces, it's on the western side of the hill itself, and the caves themselves were built over 12 million years ago.
this particular dragon, fire bursts out at the mouth every 5 minutes to remind people what the dragon was like. And right across it is that mighty river where it ran across after eating the sheep to quench its thirst. Another interesting legend that's made about the dragon is it wasn't the mighty cobbler who did it. It was in fact the king, the brave king, Kraków, who killed him, who later did the stone. And we shouldn't be too surprised that at some point the legend became that it was the king, because how do kings perpetuate their rule? How does autocracy perpetuate its rule? By showing itself bigger than life itself.